Today we're exploring one of neuroscience's most profound mysteries, the Savant Islands of Genius paradox. How can severe cognitive limitations coexist with superhuman abilities? Imagine cognitive function as a landscape. Most individuals show relatively uniform capability across domains. But savants display a paradoxical profile. Profound deficits in most areas, represented by these red valleys, yet islands that tower above even expert performance in specific domains. This raises a fundamental question about brain architecture. How can the same neural substrate be simultaneously profoundly impaired in general cognition yet produce performances that exceed trained experts in narrow domains? Here's a schematic of modular brain organization. Red regions show impairment while the green region shows exceptional ability. The key puzzle. Why doesn't the impairment spread? Why doesn't the exceptional ability compensate for deficits? Let's establish the epidemiological baseline with quantitative precision. Approximately 10% of individuals with autism spectrum disorder display savant abilities. This is remarkably high. In the general population, Savant syndrome occurs in roughly 0.06%, or about 1 in 1,500 individuals. This gives us an enrichment factor of approximately 167-fold. This massive enrichment tells us something profound about the neurodevelopmental pathways involved. Savant abilities cluster into 3 primary domains. Let's examine each with concrete examples. Musical abilities account for 54% of documented savant cases. Calendar calculation comprises 33%. Artistic abilities represent 13%. Note these percentages sum to 100, indicating these are the dominant categories. Let's examine musical savants quantitatively. Consider Leslie Lemke, blind with cerebral palsy and developmental disability. After hearing Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto No. 1 a single time, Lemke reproduced it flawlessly. This represents encoding of approximately 15,000 notes after one exposure with zero formal training. Let's ask, what does this memory capacity actually imply about neural encoding? A typical concerto lasts 30 minutes. At moderate tempo, approximately 500 notes per minute. Each note contains at minimum 3 parameters: pitch, duration, and timing. That's 15,000 notes times 3 parameters, giving 45,000 parameters encoded in a single exposure. This vastly exceeds typical working memory capacity of 7 plus or minus 2 items. The savant capacity exceeds normal working memory by roughly 6,000-fold. This cannot be explained by simple quantitative enhancement. Something qualitatively different is occurring in the neural architecture. Now let's analyze calendar calculation, perhaps the most studied savant ability. Calendar savants can instantly tell you what day of the week any date falls on, past or future, often spanning centuries. A typical savant responds in less than half a second. For comparison, the standard doomsday algorithm requires several steps of modular arithmetic and takes trained individuals 15 to 30 seconds. What's the computational complexity here? Let's break it down. The doomsday algorithm requires 5 to 7 distinct modular arithmetic operations. A trained human takes 15 to 30 seconds. Savants respond in half a second. Using the median human time of 20 seconds, savants are 40 times faster. But there's a critical question here. Are savants actually computing the answer algorithmically, or are they retrieving it from an enormous memorized lookup table? We have 2 competing models. The computation model suggests applying algorithms. The memory model suggests direct retrieval from stored patterns. Evidence suggests savants use a hybrid approach with heavy reliance on chunked memory patterns. Let's calculate. If it were pure memory, how much storage would be needed? A 200-year range contains 73,000 days. Each entry maps one date to one day of the week. Since there are 7 days, we need log base 2 of 7, approximately 3 bits per entry. Total storage. 73,000 times 3 equals 219 kilobits, or about 27 kilobytes. This is neurologically plausible. 27 kilobytes corresponds to roughly 3 million synapses, which is only 0.03% of total cortical capacity. The storage requirement is trivial. The mystery is not capacity but accessibility and organization. Now let's examine artistic savants. Stephen Wiltshire can draw entire cityscapes from memory after a single helicopter ride. After a 20-minute helicopter flight over Tokyo, Wiltshire produced a highly accurate panoramic drawing over 5 days. The drawing included thousands of buildings with correct relative positions, proportions, and architectural details. Let's quantify the visual information encoded. 20 minutes equals 1200 seconds of viewing. The human visual field can distinguish approximately 1 million spatial features at any moment. Eyes make 3 to 4 fixations per second during active scanning. Total fixations: 1200 times 3.5 equals 4200 fixations. If 100 features are retained per fixation, and most are relevant to the cityscape, this gives 420,000 encoded features. This is an enormous memory load retrieved with spatial accuracy over days of drawing. Typical subjects retain about 2% of such detailed visual information. Savants retain approximately 80%. That's a 40-fold improvement in visual memory retention. Now let's examine the neural mechanisms. 3 major hypotheses attempt to explain savant abilities. The first hypothesis proposes enhanced local neural processing with reduced global integration. This model suggests savant brains have hyperactive local neural circuits with reduced long-range connectivity. The enhanced local processing allows extraordinary detail encoding but at the cost of integrative function. Neuroimaging studies show altered connectivity patterns in autism spectrum disorder, with increased short-range but decreased long-range connections. Studies show approximately 40% increase in local connectivity in savant regions, but 30% decrease in long-range interhemispheric connections. The second hypothesis focuses on reduced latent inhibition, meaning decreased filtering of irrelevant stimuli. In normal brains, 95% of sensory information is filtered out as irrelevant. In savant brains, the filter is weakened, allowing much more raw sensory data through. This floods the system with details that normally would be ignored. This hypothesis elegantly explains both aspects of the paradox. The reduced filtering provides access to extraordinary detail, but it simultaneously overwhelms higher-order integrative processes, causing cognitive impairment. Information throughput is approximately 5 times higher in savants, based on pupillometry and neural recording studies. The third hypothesis proposes compensatory reorganization following early brain injury or atypical development. When language or social cognition areas are damaged or fail to develop, other regions may hypertrophy to compensate. The hypothesis suggests that neural resources normally distributed across multiple functions become concentrated in remaining viable circuits. Support comes from acquired savant syndrome, where previously normal individuals suddenly develop savant abilities after focal brain injury, particularly to the left anterior temporal lobe. Approximately 25 cases of acquired savant syndrome have been documented in the medical literature. Most involve left hemisphere frontotemporal damage, suggesting that intact right hemisphere functions are disinhibited or released. Left hemisphere damage removes inhibition on right hemisphere functions. Right hemisphere processes, normally suppressed, become dominant. This explains the concrete, detail-oriented, spatially precise nature of most savant skills. Can we unify these hypotheses into a coherent framework that resolves the paradox? Let's think about brain function as a constrained optimization problem with limited metabolic resources. Total neural energy equals local processing energy plus global integration energy, and this total is approximately constant due to metabolic constraints. Skill performance in a domain is proportional to local processing energy devoted to that domain. General cognitive ability is proportional to global integration energy. In typical brains, energy is balanced between local specialization and global integration. Normal allocation: 50% to global integration, 50% to local processing. This produces competent but not exceptional performance across domains. In savant brains, we see extreme reallocation toward local processing in specific domains. Savant allocation. Only 5% to global integration, 95% to local processing concentrated in a specific domain. This produces superhuman performance in that domain but severe impairment in integrative functions. The savant performance equals K times normal performance times the ratio of concentrated to distributed energy, where K is a domain-specific constant. For savant domains, this ratio is approximately 10 to 20, explaining the order of magnitude enhancement. Recent transcranial magnetic stimulation studies provide direct experimental evidence for this framework. When researchers temporarily inhibit left temporal regions in neurotypical subjects using repetitive TMS, subjects show temporarily enhanced ability in detail-oriented tasks like drawing, proofreading, and numerosity estimation. Drawing accuracy improves by 25% during TMS inhibition. Detail detection improves by 40%. These effects are reversible and disappear when the TMS protocol stops, demonstrating causal links between regional inhibition and enhanced local processing. Let's examine the neurochemical dimension. What neurotransmitter systems might modulate this local-global trade-off? Serotonin appears to play a key role as a global integration modulator. Studies show approximately 40% reduction in serotonin markers in some savant individuals. High serotonin promotes global integration but reduces detail sensitivity. Low serotonin weakens integration but enhances local detail processing. This neurochemical dial adjusts the local-global balance. GABA and glutamate ratios also play crucial roles in the excitation-inhibition balance. The glutamate to GABA ratio is elevated by approximately 30% in savant cortical regions, suggesting increased excitability. This increased excitability amplifies local circuit responses to specific patterns, potentially explaining the extraordinary encoding capacity. How do savant abilities emerge developmentally? The timeline provides crucial clues. Savant skills typically emerge between ages 3 and 5, coinciding with critical periods of cortical specialization. Peak performance often occurs between ages 10 and 15, then stabilizes. This timeline suggests interaction between savant development and normal critical periods for neural pruning. Synaptic density peaks between 2 and 4 years of age. Aggressive pruning occurs from 5 to 15 years. The hypothesis is that savant brains show selective preservation of specific circuits that would normally be pruned, combined with excessive pruning of integrative circuits. Normal development shows balanced pruning across circuits. Savant development shows excessive pruning of most circuits but selective preservation and enhancement of specific domain circuits, highlighted in green. Can we build computational models that capture savant paradoxes? Several groups have attempted this. The basic architecture uses competing neural populations with limited shared resources. Population A dynamics. Growth rate Ra times A times 1 minus A minus alpha B, minus decay rate gamma A. Population B dynamics. Growth rate Rb times B times 1 minus B minus beta A, minus decay gamma B. Here A represents specialized local circuits, B represents integrative global circuits. Alpha and beta are competition coefficients. Specialized circuits in green compete with integrative circuits in blue through inhibitory connections shown in red. With strong competition, one population dominates. If alpha much greater than 1, specialized circuits dominate, producing savant-like behavior. If alpha approximately 1, balanced coexistence produces typical cognitive profile. This simple model reproduces key features: exceptional local performance, impaired integration, and winner-take-all dynamics. Why would evolution maintain genetic variants that produce savant syndrome? One possibility is the cognitive diversity hypothesis. Different cognitive profiles might provide adaptive advantages in different ecological niches. Detail specialists, balanced generalists, and abstract thinkers might fill complementary cognitive niches in human groups. Savants represent an extreme of the detail specialist phenotype. Frequency-dependent selection could maintain this variation. When detail specialists are rare, their unique abilities are highly valued. Theoretical models suggest optimal savant frequency of 1 to 5% in social groups for maximizing collective problem-solving. A fascinating question. Could we artificially induce temporary savant-like abilities in neurotypical individuals? Several methods are under investigation: transcranial direct current stimulation, focused ultrasound, and pharmacological modulation. Transcranial direct current stimulation with cathode over left temporal regions produces approximately 15% improvement in detail tasks. Serotonin antagonists show approximately 20% improvement. However, effects are modest and come with trade-offs. Enhanced detail processing reduces abstract reasoning and social cognition during the intervention. What are the clinical implications for supporting individuals with Savant syndrome? The key principle: build on strengths rather than focusing exclusively on fixing deficits. Traditional approaches focus on deficits and suppressing repetitive behaviors. Strength-based approaches develop savant abilities and channel them into productive, fulfilling outlets. Success stories include employment in specialized roles like technical drawing, data analysis, musical performance, and quality control that leverage savant abilities. Let me conclude with major open questions that remain unresolved. Question 1. What neural or genetic factors determine why one individual develops musical savant abilities while another develops calendar calculation? Question 2. Can we develop training protocols that teach savant-level skills to neurotypical individuals, or are they fundamentally dependent on atypical brain organization? Question 3. What is the upper limit of savant abilities? Have we seen the most extreme cases, or could even more extraordinary abilities emerge? We've documented 6,000-fold memory enhancements. Is 10,000-fold possible? 100,000-fold? We don't know the theoretical ceiling. Question 4. What is the relationship between savant cognition and creativity? Do savants show creativity within their domain, or is their ability purely reproductive? Let me synthesize our understanding into a coherent framework. The savant paradox arises from extreme neural resource allocation. Limited metabolic and anatomical resources must be distributed across competing functions. Developmental atypicality or acquired brain changes cause asymmetric allocation, concentrating resources in narrow domains at the expense of integrative functions. This produces superhuman local processing abilities but simultaneously impairs global integration, social cognition, and abstract reasoning. This diagram illustrates how extreme neural resource allocation gives rise to the savant paradox. Savants exhibit superhuman local processing abilities in specific domains, but at the cost of impaired global integration and social cognition. This framework provides a unified explanation for Savant syndrome, integrating insights from neuroscience, psychology, and evolution. It highlights the complex interplay between local processing, global integration, and cognitive trade-offs that underlie human cognition. By understanding the neural mechanisms and developmental pathways that give rise to savant abilities, we can better appreciate the remarkable diversity of human cognition and the intricate balance between different cognitive functions. The savant paradox serves as a powerful reminder of the awe-inspiring potential of the human brain and the importance of continued research into the mysteries of human cognition. In conclusion, the study of Savant syndrome offers a fascinating window into the workings of the human brain, revealing the intricate relationships between cognitive functions, neural mechanisms, and evolutionary pressures. As we continue to explore and understand the complexities of Savant syndrome, we may uncover new insights into the nature of human cognition, creativity, and intelligence. Ultimately, the study of Savant syndrome has the potential to inspire new approaches to education, cognitive training, and neurological rehabilitation, and to illuminate the remarkable potential of the human brain.